We got a lot of toys based on movies growing up in the 80s, but there were a few in the 80s that I really wish we got action figure lines based on. So let's take a look at them right now. Welcome back to the Junk Room, everybody. It's me, the Junkman, coming back at you with a whole nother video. Can you believe it? It's 5 o'clock already for our daily video, sandwiched in between two live streams. If you're not checking out the live streams, please do. We have a lot of fun over there. Sometimes we have a topic, but it usually veers off. I mean, yesterday I was screaming and ranting about pickles, and a few days ago before that, we went from talking toys to talking 90s rock bands. So you never know where it's going to go. So check out both live streams if you haven't, and don't forget the live stream channel where the live streams move over there. All of that's in the description below. We'll move on from there. Now, last week, I think it was, we looked at about 10 TV shows I wish had an action figure line. And I said then I would come back with a list of movies that I wish also had an action figure line. Now, some of these did get action figure lines later, thanks to like Super 7 or Funko. But we're talking when I was a kid or when the movie was released. These are some action figures as a kid, as a little junk boy, I would have loved to have had. So let's just go with number one, kind of a basic one. Some of these are really mainstream, you'll know, you'll agree. Then some of them's kind of more obscure that only a kid like me would enjoy. Terminator 1. We never got action figures from Terminator 1. We did get Terminator 2, and before you say, hold on, Junkman, that movie's rated R. Well, we did get the big giant alien you see over there, and they did, at least, well, they did Police Academy, Rambo, and other things, although they kind of shift those to the cartoon and then base toys off them. But it's not out of the realm of possibility. At least a kid like me that grew up when Terminator was all over HBO every day. It was a huge hit. And I'm not saying it would have been aimed for 8-year-olds, but they could have done a good line for early teen boys, 10 to 13-ish. Even if it was rated R. Would love to have a Kyle Reese action figure. Maybe the 18-wheeler. So much they could have done with this line. A different Arnold, one with a face ripped off someone that's all robot. Could have been a lot of fun. I would really have enjoyed a Terminator 1 action figure line as a kid. Here's another one. This is one I can't believe they didn't make. As huge as this movie was, and so ripe for action figures, why didn't they make Back to the Future action figures? I mean, you had a video game, you had other things, but there was very lacking in merchandise. I don't even think they did a Back to the Future lunchbox. But action figures would have been great. Could have had Marty, could have had a DeLorean that you put Marty in, Doc in. Oh, I guess the studio maybe just didn't want to market a toy line that was about a mom trying to make out with her son, while they were also trying to, I don't know, stop a date rapist or something. I don't know. Maybe they just thought this was too controversial for a toy line. I think it would have been great. Back then, I would have loved it. Kids love Back to the Future. Kids love Back to the Future. They should have done this line. This would have been great. And you could have done more, part 2, part 3. Could have had a whole series in the 80s of Back to the Future toys. Let's get the mainstream ones out of the way. E.T. Now hold on, you go to Junkman, they did E.T. toys. Okay, they had some little PVC E.T.s and stuff, but I'm talking about a real action figure line from E.T. where you had Elliot, you had, I don't know, what's her name? Drew Barrymore. You had the son, I don't remember anybody's name. Peter Coyote, you could have had him, the mom. Could have had a little house playset, maybe some bicycle playset. She put Elliot on, put E.T. in the basket. Would have been great. I mean, it was probably had to be one of the biggest movies of the 80s. It might be the number one movie of the 80s. Because I think it knocked, Star Wars was 70s, but it knocked Star Wars out of number one. You should have had an E.T. toy line. And, come on. Okay, we moved on from that one. What about, let me check my list, Big Trouble in Little China. Would have made an excellent fun toy line. Again, years later, thanks to Super 7 or Funko, we've got one. But as a kid growing up, especially this is another movie that replayed a lot on like HBO or Cinemax. Anytime you had a movie that played over and over on those, that became a hit with people. Maybe a lot of people didn't remember it at the theater. This one they did. But over and over again on television, the more you wanted to play with it. Man, you could have done so much with. Anytime you can get a Kurt Russell figure, in my book's a plus. But you could have had, his truck and all the warriors and everything. I think it would have been really good if they did a Big Trouble in Little China action figure line. Now, another one that I think would appeal for kids, but they didn't make, was the Goonies. It's kids playing with kids. Kids buying kid action figures. Wow, who at the studio didn't see this coming? You could have the whole pirate ship, and you got the ugly guy that says, "Hey, you guys," because he likes watching Electric Company. Oh, and then you have Throw Mama from the Train as whoever she plays in that movie. This would have been a wonderful line. Yeah, you got the Pirate's Gold ship at the end. You could have it like a play set where you open it up and you got booby traps and everything in it. I said booby traps in it and everything. It would have been great. Why didn't we get action figure lines from the Goonies? It makes no sense whatsoever. And again, I think Super 7. Thank you, Super 7, the Fun Girl. I think we've had them since then. Another mainstream one. Another mainstream one we didn't get. Gremlins. Oh, Junkman, we got Gremlins. I know we got PVCs like E.T., but I'm talking a line with the curly head dude and Phoebe Cates. Anytime you can get a Phoebe Cates action figure, that's a good day. Hort Axton. We could have had a Hort Axton action figure. Then you got the Mogwai, and you got all the different Gremlins you can make. You got the mom, you got the Flo from Alice. She was in the movie. You could have her in her little wheelchair and shot. You could have it like a spring action. Put her in her wheelchair, pull it down like this, and and then when the Gremlins come, you can hit the fire button and send her off in her stair wheelchair out the window. It would have been a great playset. Why didn't we have Gremlins? Now, I feel like I'm talking really fast. Let's go to a more obscure that only maybe me as a kid would have wanted. Let's start off with Mark Singer in Beastmaster. I used to watch this all the time, especially if I was sick from school. It seemed like it was on HBO every time I was sick. I know they did sequels and everything. Never really saw them, so can't say. Beastmaster as a kid, being that I was so in love with this when it was on TV all the time, I would have loved Beastmaster action figures. Sadly, I watched a lot, but I don't really remember much about the movie. I think there's a hawk in it or something. But, He-Man was popular at this time. It's kind of like He-Man, although it was set, Earth's past instead of a future planet. But he had a sword, so anytime you had somebody without a shirt and without a sword, I thought it was just like He-Man. So we got that out of the way. How about this one? This might be a little bit more mainstream, not sure. Young Guns. Now, the second one I think would appeal more for kids. Second one's just a little bit more, action, entertaining. I like them both. Just the first one's a little bit more serious. I think you can be a little bit more mature to watch the first one. But a line of action figures based on Young Guns would have been great because you would have all those old Western outlaws in a group. Emilio Estevez as Billy the Kid, Doc. And then you have, at the time too, the biggest actors probably at the time in the 80s and early 90s were Young Guns too, coming together to make a set of Young Gun action figures. Why didn't I get that? I should have. It would have been great. Okay, checking over my list. Now we're going to get to the heart and soul of this video, to the ones that I would have died for. First, let's go to one again. I think it's thanks to Super 7, Red Dawn. The first movie rated PG-13, and I went to see it because it was rated PG-13, and because I saw a guy in the trailer wearing a Star Wars hat. So I knew there was someone that I could relate to in the movie. So I went to see Red Dawn, loved it. Maybe they didn't want to do action figures with teenagers from high school gunning down Russians, but hey, it's been a lot of fun. There was a lot of figures, a lot of different characters you could make. You got the main cast, you got Powers Booth. Anytime you can get a Powers Booth action figure, it's a good day. So you get Powers Booth action figures. You could have got the bad Russian guys. You could have got a little prisoner camp that looks like an old make a playset that's like a high school turned into a prisoner camp with barbed wire around it. Just so much possibilities you could have done. Okay, let's see. I talked that. I'm just deleting some of these off my notes here. 4 more. I deleted one I wanted to talk about here. So let's one more kind of mainstream, then we'll get into my more obscure ones. The Breakfast Club. Wait, hear me out before you get, screw him. I'm going to go see that big titty YouTuber. Okay, for that, remember, The Breakfast Club. Great movie. You could have had a school play set. Maybe that's the only way you could got the principal action figure or the janitor that comes with a mop bucket and a broom. That would have been pretty cool to show kids, hey, it's okay to be a janitor. Look, he can become an action figure if you're a janitor. You could have had all the different characters in there. sit at their little table and everything. Wouldn't have been a big line. Wasn't many people in that movie. You know, you don't want to do the parents that come with the free car that drops them off in the morning. You wouldn't want to do that unless, unless it was a huge seller and you had to push a series 2. Then you could do like the Bronco with Emilio Estevez's dad in it. And, you could if you wanted to really milk it. But for me, you just want the students from the classroom in the class at a playset of the school and the principal. Like I said, the principal is probably let's do this. The principal comes with the school. If you buy the school playset, you get the principal free. The janitor janitor now, you have to mail off. You mail off. You buy all the students and you cut off the UPC, mail it in, and you get the janitor with his mop bucket and everything to show kids that, hey, even a janitor can become an action figure. I think that would have been great, guys. That would have been great. Let me know what you think. The Breakfast Club action figure line. Why didn't we have it? I would buy that right now and sit it right back there. Okay, 3 more. Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins. Sadly, we also was the end of Remo Williams. I don't know about you, but this was another one that was on pay TV back in the 80s all the time. Oh my God, I love this. And it stars Fred Ward. And anytime you can get a Fred Ward action figure, that's a good day. Okay, sorry about that, edit. I just want to make sure it was Fred Ward. I was like, wait, that is his name, right? Okay, Fred Ward. So, imagine this playset you get with it. The Statue of Liberty, but it's got it's got the structure all around, the fence all around it where they're building it, and at the top maybe it's got, you can swing out like he does and everything. You remember Remo Williams? I hope you could have had a lot of fun. Could have had the little plastic part right here that looks like concrete that they're still wet, that you could run the figure through and it doesn't leave footprints. Oh, now I don't know if it would have been a big line. I mean, you could have had Remo Williams in it. You could have had, I don't know who else is in that movie. What is that other guy's name? Joel Grey. Well, people will get upset now they had Joel Grey playing that character. And Wilford Brimley. Wilford Diabetes himself, Wilford Brimley. And any day you can get a Wilford. Okay, so Remo Williams, I think, especially for me, would have been a great toy line to have. We only got 3 more. 2 more. And none of them's The Last Starfighter because I forgot to put it on my list. But that would have been a great line to have right there, for real. So we're not going to talk about that. Let's see. Let me erase Breakfast Club. And let me erase Remo Williams. You ready? This is for the guys that bought girl toys. Because, let's be honest, a lot of us, when we bought action figures, we didn't care about the girl action figures. But you had to if you bought this line. Because these were the 2 coolest, badasses Valley girls in the world in the 80s. We're talking figures based on Night of the Comet. What? You never saw Night of the Comet, one of the best zombie movies of the 80s? You missed out. Everybody goes out to see Halley's Comet or some comet flying through the air, and everyone goes except these 2 girls, or at least most of the planet goes except for these 2 girls. And they all die, turn into zombies or something. And they're the last 2 girls on Earth. And you know the best thing about these figures? They could come with an Uzi. Don't really hear about the Uzi much anymore. And I miss the Uzi. Anytime you can have a toy that comes with an Uzi, that would be a great toy line to have if you ask me. And you didn't ask me, but you clicked on here to see my opinion, so that's about the same thing. Night of the Comets. You could have done some zombies. You could have done the radio DJ guy. You could have had them come with motorcycles. Motorcycles. And it also would have made young boys see playing with girl action figures is cool. Okay, so now my number 1 pick, although these aren't really in a top 10 kind of order or anything, this is my pick for a movie line that should have had an action figure line, and I'm kind of sad that this movie gets overlooked. This is an 80s action movie, and people talk about the Terminator and all these action movies from the 80s, and I think because this one didn't have really a sequel to it, it gets overlooked. But it was a great movie. Check it out. I think you can watch it on YouTube, Amazon. You can watch it a lot of places. Runaway, starring Tom Selleck and the villain, Gene Simmons. Not that Gene Simmons, that Gene Simmons. The good Gene Simmons. What a great movie. And like I said, I think it gets overlooked because it didn't have sequels, so people kind of forget about it. But man, Runaway, and you could have the little wine, you could have made them, they came with these little spiders and things, a lot of spider robots. You could have made some wind up ones to go along. You could have had a Gene Simmons figure. Oh man, you could finally have a Gene Simmons with his tongue in his mouth. You could have Tom Selleck. Hey, you get bored playing Runaway, you can play a Magnum PI. So it would have been a lot of fun. I don't know who else is in the movie, but you could have had that little, at the end, they, throughout the movie, they're riding up this tower. They're like building a warehouse or something. I can't remember. But they're inside this elevator. It's not like an inside the office elevator. It's kind of like on the outside. And they get into this big fight and they're hanging off the side. Could have done the elevator play set. That would have been cool. Could have came with a free spider or something. I don't know, but I thought you guys would like that. Now, I did a podcast with some guys, go figure. We did a podcast talking about this same subject here. I went over my list, some here, some I didn't talk about here, and they went over their list. And I'm going to put a link to that podcast in the description below. I believe it's up now. Either it came up yesterday or today. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is. So look in the description below for that Go Figure podcast, and that way you guys can hear my thoughts and their thoughts on more movie action figure lines that should have had, or more movies that should have had an action figure line when we were kids. Anyway, let me know in the comments below what you think. What movie should have had action figure lines when you were a kid that you would have been excited about? Or what about my list? Which one of these would you have loved off my list? Which one would you have hated? Let me all know that in the comments below. And until the next video, thumb up this one so I know you like my content. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk again soon.
Junkman.
Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.